This creature looked like a whale, but it was actually more closely related to snakes than fish. The ocean around us today is full of life, but for the most part, it's relatively peaceful. Aside from the occasional shark attack, we humans are pretty safe swimming in the sea. However, this hasn't always been the case. And believe it or not, the oceans that covered our planet millions of years ago were absolute nightmares. Just imagine you floating along in the water when suddenly a 15-meter-long eel-like fish with rows upon rows of razor-sharp teeth opens its massive mouth and swallows you whole. This isn't something that you need to worry about today, but back then it was a very real possibility. With that said, here are 5 of the creepiest sea monsters that actually existed. Starting off this list, we have the mosasaurs. These truly terrifying creatures were basically the apex predators of their time. They swam around in the world's oceans during the Cretaceous period, which lasted from around 145 to 65 million years ago. Mosasaurs were also the dominant marine reptiles, much like how sharks are the dominant fish alive today. These guys came in all shapes and sizes. Some were less than a meter long, while others grew to be over 18 meters. That's roughly the size of a school bus. Mosasaur means largest lizard, and that's exactly what these creatures were. They belonged to the same family as crocodiles and alligators, and they looked like gigantic versions of those animals. With their powerful jaws and dozens of sharp teeth, mosasaurs could eat pretty much anything they wanted. They had small eyes, just like modern crocodiles, which means that they likely hunted during the day, unlike many nocturnal sea creatures. Scientists think that mosasaurs ambushed their prey, similar to how crocodiles do today. But because they lived so long ago, there aren't any videos of them doing this. Instead, we can only look at fossils and bones that they left behind. One of the most famous mosasaur fossils ever found was discovered in 1869 by a farmer in Kansas. He found a skull that was literally 3 meters wide. It took 20 men to move this thing from the site. Unfortunately, the fossil has been lost ever since 1942. No one knows where it went or if it even still exists. Maybe someday we'll find it and get another glimpse at what life was like all those years ago. For now, though, we can marvel at the amazing fossils of this huge sea monster that's still being discovered. Next up on this list, we have the Dunkleosteus. We just talked about how mosasaurs were the equivalent of giant crocodiles, but the Dunkleosteus was the equivalent of a giant, tuna. These creepy sea monsters were some of the largest bony fish that ever lived. In fact, the name Dunkleosteus translates to dark fish. But these fish weren't dark at all. They were silver and gray. Instead, the name comes from the dark spot that's on the back of their skulls. If you ever got to see one of these things swimming through the water, you would never want to go swimming again. Dunkleosteus lived between 365 and 358 million years ago, so they were definitely not alive at the same time as mosasaurs. These giant fish reached lengths of up to 6 meters and weighed more than 1,000 kilograms. That's absolutely massive. And if you saw one of these swimming towards you, you would definitely get out of the water fast. As far as we can tell, Dunkleosteus were completely carnivorous, but they didn't hunt smaller fish. Instead, they only ate other large fish and sometimes each other. Imagine getting chunked by a giant fish that's looking for a midnight snack. That's what it would have been like to live alongside these sea monsters. Although the Dunkleosteus went extinct long before humans evolved, there are plenty of scary fish in the ocean today. And who knows, maybe some of them will evolve into giant, terrifying sea monsters one day. Now let's take a look at the Bathypelicanax. Even the name of this sea monster sounds scary. And trust me, they really were scary. These guys were known as the giants of the deep. And although scientists don't know too much about them, they do know that they were big, like Betrayan-sized big. There are only a few fossils of these creatures, which makes it hard to learn about them. Scientists estimate that the Bathypalagorax grew to be anywhere from 7 to 10 meters long. This is a rough estimate, however, and it may be possible that these sea monsters were even bigger. Luckily, scientists have been able to estimate what they looked like, and it wasn't a very pleasant sight. Basically, they were like giant pelicans with giant snouts. But instead of eating smaller fish, they ate plankton and small crustaceans. So although they were huge and creepy, they weren't necessarily dangerous to humans. Still, it's best not to mess with anything that's 10 meters long. The Bathypelicanax lived in the Triassic period, which lasted from around 252 to 201 million years ago. At this time, the Earth had just recovered from the largest mass extinction in history. Many scientists believe that a new mass extinction was beginning to form, and the Bathypelicanax was at the center of this. Their remains have been found in several different places across the world. But the scariest part is that they seem to have vanished without a trace after the Triassic period ended. It's not clear why they disappeared, but some experts say it may have been because of the changing climate. Whatever the reason, we may never know now. Moving on, let's take a look at the Livy. Once again, even the name of this sea monster sounds absolutely terrifying. But it gets worse when you hear how it killed its prey. The Liopleurodon was a type of plesiosaur, and it lived during the late Jurassic period, which was between 163 and 145 million years ago. These guys were basically like whales, except their necks were way longer. We don't know exactly how long their necks were, but they were probably close to 3 meters. That's almost as tall as some giraffes. Now, you might be wondering how exactly a plesiosaur with a super long neck ate its prey. Well, it did it the same way a giraffe eats, by using its neck. You see, the Liopleurodon didn't have teeth. Instead, it had a thick, flexible tongue that it used to flick in and out of its mouth. They would use this tongue to catch fish, squid, and crustaceans, and they could do it from a very long distance away. All they had to do was stick their long necks out of the water and flip their tongues. Of course, they couldn't do this forever. Eventually, they would have to surface to breathe, and then their meal would come right up to their mouths. Although the Liopleurodon may sound like a peaceful creature, it was anything but. After all, they were massive. Some grew to be over 20 meters long, and they probably weren't afraid to use their massive tails to smash boats and flip sailboats. The good news is that these sea monsters are no longer alive. The bad news is that they went extinct around the same time that the dinosaurs did, which means that they may have caused the extinction. Finally, we have the Smilodon. This was the largest carnivorous mammal that ever swam in the oceans. It was basically like a saber-toothed tiger, except it lived in the water, and its teeth were even longer and sharper. The Smilodon was a type of Sparassodont, and these creatures were around for a very long time. They first appeared around 55 million years ago, and they continued to grow bigger and bigger. Around 35 million years ago, they reached their peak size, and the Smilodons were around 3 meters long. These sea monsters lived all across the globe, and they were the apex predators of their time. They used their long, sharp teeth to slash apart other sea creatures and feast on their flesh. These teeth were not only useful for hunting, but also for attracting mates. The larger the saber-tooth, the more attractive the Smilodon was to potential partners. This is a bit weird considering these guys were fish, but that's just how nature works. Unfortunately for the Smilodon, they went extinct around 12 million years ago. We don't know exactly why they died out, but it was probably because of the changing climate. This seems to happen a lot, doesn't it? Regardless, it's a good thing that we don't have to worry about these creepy sea monsters anymore. But now it's time to hear from you. Which of these sea monsters was the scariest? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're down there, make sure to like and subscribe for more videos about amazing creatures that are still scary today. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more just like it, then check out my other videos.